"Let go of my mom, or I'll make you stand." The words detonated through courtroom 4B like a grenade with the pin pulled. Not a threat from a seasoned attorney. Not a dramatic proclamation from some crusading activist. A declaration from a 10-year-old boy in a borrowed suit, standing before Judge Grace Hargrove, a woman whose wheelchair had been her throne for 6 unbroken years. The statement was a miracle wrapped in madness, impossible on its face yet delivered with the calm certainty of mathematical proof. The courtroom saw a criminal. Malik saw his mother. Angela Johnson, 8 months pregnant, shackled, dressed in orange, wasn't judged on evidence. She was judged on appearance. On skin color. On the mop she'd pushed through courthouse halls for 12 years. Behind the benches, the system had already made up its mind. Another theft. Another janitor caught where she didn't belong. But Malik hadn't come to beg. For 9 months, he'd watched. Listened. Recorded. And now, standing alone in courtroom 4B, the boy everyone underestimated had arrived with a truth powerful enough to either free his mother, or expose the rot beneath the robes. The clock was already ticking. Angela Johnson had scrubbed the marble floors of the Jefferson County Courthouse for 12 years, her hands raw from industrial cleaner, her back perpetually bent in service to a building that never acknowledged her existence. She arrived at 11 p.m. when the lawyers and judges had gone home, when the grand halls emptied of their self-importance, leaving only the echo of her mop bucket wheels and the hum of fluorescent lights. She was a ghost who kept the temple clean. After her husband died when Malik was barely 2, a construction accident that left her with $8,000 in burial costs and a Social Security check that covered 3 weeks of expenses, Angela worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat. The courthouse was the anchor, the steady paycheck with benefits that covered Malik's asthma medication and her prenatal vitamins now that another child was coming. The baby had been a surprise, a brief relationship that hadn't survived the man's discovery that Angela came with responsibilities he wasn't ready to shoulder. The judges trusted her with keys to every chamber, every storage room, every restricted area. She had access because she was invisible, too insignificant to be a threat, too reliable to question. She knew where District Attorney Walsh kept his bourbon, which clerks left confidential files unsecured, how Judge Hargrove took her coffee. Angela saw everything and was seen by no one. When $75,000 vanished from the court's emergency fund, money allocated for witness protection and emergency judicial operations, the investigation lasted exactly 48 hours before settling on its prime suspect. Angela Johnson. The cleaning woman. The one with access. The one who probably needed it. The one nobody would defend. Prosecutor Stephen Walsh stood before the jury like a man presenting a solved equation, his silk tie catching the overhead lights as he gestured toward Angela with theatrical disgust. Ladies and gentlemen, this case requires no complex investigation. The defendant had access, opportunity, and, let's be honest, motive. A single mother working minimum wage, another child on the way, mounting debts. The mathematics of desperation are quite simple. He didn't say, black woman. He didn't need to. The phrase, people in her position, did the work for him, each word dripping with implication. The jury, 10 white faces, 1 Asian, 1 Latino, nodded along as if Walsh were simply narrating the inevitable. Judge Grace Hargrove presided from her wheelchair with the severity of someone who had transcended her own victimhood through sheer force of will. She had fought her way through law school in the 1980s when women were still novelties in courtrooms, had survived a devastating car accident that left her paralyzed, had clawed her way to the bench through competence that could not be denied. She had earned her authority through suffering, and she had no patience for those who squandered their opportunities through criminality. When she looked at Angela Johnson, she saw weakness she had never allowed herself. Pregnancy out of wedlock. Manual labor. Dependence. Everything Hargrove had fought not to be. Your Honor, began Angela's public defender, an exhausted man named Robert Chen who carried 43 active cases, my client maintains her innocence and. Noted, Hargrove cut him off. Mr. Walsh, proceed. Chen sat down without another word. He'd already mentally filed this case under plea bargain and moved on to the next. The machinery ground forward, indifferent to the woman it was crushing. Malik Johnson had essentially grown up in the courthouse, a silent shadow trailing his mother through her night shifts when childcare wasn't available or affordable. While Angela scrubbed toilets and emptied trash bins, Malik did homework in empty jury rooms, read books in dim corridors, and watched the adult world operate from the margins where children become invisible. He noticed things. The way David Brennan, the senior court clerk, always worked late on Tuesdays and Thursdays, long after everyone else had gone. How Brennan's car, a modest Honda Civic for years, had suddenly been replaced by a gleaming BMW 7 Series. The Rolex that appeared on Brennan's wrist last spring, catching light during case filings. The vacation photos posted on social media, Maldives, first-class seats, overwater bungalows that cost $2,000 per night. Malik had a memory that bordered on photographic, a gift that made school almost boring in its simplicity. He remembered badge numbers, timestamps on security logs he glimpsed while his mother cleaned administrative offices, the exact dates when financial discrepancies first appeared in documents left carelessly on desks. 9 months before his mother's arrest, Malik had started documenting. A composition notebook filled with observations, dates, numbers. Photographs taken on a second-hand smartphone. He created spreadsheets comparing Brennan's salary against his expenditures, cross-referencing Angela's cleaning schedule against security access logs. He knew his mother was innocent because he knew exactly when she was in the building and when she wasn't. And he knew who had been in the vault room on the 3 occasions when withdrawals were made. But he was 10 years old. Who would listen to a child? So he found someone who would. The courtroom doors opened with a sound like thunder, and Marcus Reed entered as if he owned not just the room but the entire concept of justice itself. 6'3", silver-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than Angela made in 3 months, he moved with the controlled power of someone who had argued before the Supreme Court and won. Behind him came 2 associates wheeling document boxes and a paralegal carrying a laptop that would shortly destroy several careers. Your Honor, Reed's voice carried the weight of authority earned through 30 years of civil rights litigation. I am Marcus Reed of Reed and Associates, and I am entering my appearance as counsel for the defendant, Angela Johnson. My client will be pleading not guilty, and I will be filing an immediate motion to dismiss all charges based on prosecutorial misconduct and fabricated evidence. The courtroom erupted. Walsh shot to his feet, objecting before Reed had even finished. Judge Hargrove's face went rigid, her hands gripping her wheelchair's armrests with enough force to whiten her knuckles. Mr. Reed, this court does not appreciate grandstanding. And I do not appreciate the railroading of an innocent woman, Your Honor. Reed's tone remained respectful but unyielding. I have in my possession a comprehensive dossier compiled over 9 months by Ms. Johnson's 10-year-old son, who has demonstrated more investigative competence than the entire prosecutor's office. I am prepared to present evidence of the actual perpetrator, complete with financial records, security footage analysis, and timeline documentation that exonerates my client completely. Hargrove's eyes narrowed. You're telling me a child conducted this investigation? I'm telling you that a child saw what everyone else was too prejudiced to see, the truth. The power in the room shifted like tectonic plates grinding into new positions. Reed's first associate opened the document boxes with the precision of a surgeon preparing instruments. Your Honor, if I may direct the court's attention to Exhibit A, the financial records of David Brennan, senior court clerk with this institution for 14 years. The documents projected onto screens showed a stark portrait of sudden wealth. Brennan's salary, $52,000 annually. His recent purchases, an $180,000 Tiara sport yacht, docked at Harbor Point Marina. A vacation package to the Maldives totaling $34,000 for 2 weeks. Private school tuition for his 2 children at Westbridge Academy, $28,000 per year per child. The mathematics, Reed said, echoing Walsh's earlier phrase with deliberate irony, are quite simple. Mr. Brennan has spent approximately $312,000 in the past 10 months. His salary, after taxes, provides roughly $38,000 annually. Perhaps the prosecutor can explain how Mr. Brennan achieved this miracle of multiplication. Walsh stood, his earlier confidence cracking. Your Honor, the defendant is on trial here, not Mr. Brennan. This is a transparent attempt at deflection. Bank records, Reed continued, ignoring the interruption, show 6 cash deposits into Mr. Brennan's personal account over a 6-month period, totaling $71,000. The deposits occurred within 48 hours of the documented withdrawals from the court's emergency fund. The projection changed to Angela's financial records. A checking account that never rose above $800. Grocery store purchases. Utility payments. Medical bills for prenatal care. The portrait of someone surviving paycheck to paycheck, with no unexplained income, no unusual purchases, no hidden accounts. The defense moves to subpoena Mr. David Brennan to explain these discrepancies immediately. Judge Hargrove's jaw tightened. Brennan was her most trusted clerk, the man who managed her calendar, screened her cases, brought her coffee exactly as she liked it. She looked toward the gallery where Brennan sat, his face drained of color. Malik took the witness stand with a calmness that unsettled everyone watching. He looked impossibly small in the witness box, his feet barely touching the floor, but his voice carried clearly through the microphone. The courthouse security system has 42 cameras, he began, as if reciting a book report. But there are blind spots. 3 corridors on the 2nd floor, the stairwell between the 3rd and 4th floors, and the vault room entrance if you approach from the east hallway instead of the main corridor. Reed guided him through the testimony with gentle questions. How do you know this, Malik? I mapped it. Over 2 years, while my mom worked. I watched where the cameras pointed, timed the security guard rotations, checked the monitor feeds when I could see them. Mr. Brennan knew all this too. He's been here 14 years. He knew exactly how to move without being recorded. The screen showed badge swipe data, electronic records of every key card access in the building. Malik pointed to highlighted entries. These 3 dates are when money was taken from the vault. February 9th, March 22nd, April 15th, Mr. Brennan's badge was used to access the vault room at 11:47 p.m., 11:52 p.m., and 12:03 a.m. on those dates. And where was your mother? February 9th, she was cleaning the family court wing, her badge shows entries there from 11:30 to 12:45. March 22nd, she was on medical leave for a prenatal appointment, documented in HR records. April 15th, she was cleaning Judge Morrison's chambers on the 5th floor. Her badge shows continuous access there from 11:15 to 1 a.m. Malik produced a stapled document, his mother's cleaning schedule cross-referenced with security data. She couldn't have been in 2 places at once. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. Reed held up a small digital recorder, the kind available at any electronics store for $30. Your Honor, what you are about to hear was recorded by Malik Johnson over a 9-month period. Under whistleblower protection statutes and public interest doctrine, these recordings are admissible as evidence of criminal conspiracy and civil rights violations. Judge Hargrove leaned forward. Mr. Reed, you're treading on very thin ice. Then let the ice break, Your Honor. Because what's underneath is truth. He pressed play. The first voice was Prosecutor Walsh, recorded in his office. Honestly, Grace, this one's a layup. Black cleaning lady, pregnant, desperate for money. Jury will convict before lunch. We don't even need solid evidence, just the appearance of it. Judge Hargrove's voice responded, tinny through the recorder but unmistakable. Good. I want this wrapped quickly. Make an example. These people need to understand there are consequences. These people, Walsh laughed. Careful, Grace, your privilege is showing. Oh please, Stephen. You know what I mean. The entitled ones who think they can steal from the system because they believe society owes them something. I worked for everything I have. Nobody gave me anything because of my wheelchair. Why should she get sympathy because she made poor life choices? The courtroom had gone deathly silent. Every word landed like a physical blow. The recording continued. More conversations. Jokes about another black cleaning lady going to prison. Discussion of how no one will care about Angela's case. Walsh and Hargrove coordinating to ensure the public defender would be overworked and ineffective. Conspiracy. Prejudice. Contempt. All captured in their own voices, preserved in digital clarity. Judge Hargrove's face had gone gray. The psychological collapse happened in stages, visible to everyone in the courtroom like watching a building implode in slow motion. Judge Grace Hargrove gripped her wheelchair, her breathing rapid and shallow, as her own recorded voice continued to play her prejudices for the packed gallery. The betrayal hit next, the sudden, devastating knowledge that David Brennan, her trusted clerk for 14 years, had stolen from the court while she sat in authority, blind to the corruption happening under her own supervision. The man she'd relied on, confided in, trusted absolutely, had made her an unwitting accomplice in framing an innocent woman. "Your Honor," Reed said quietly, "federal marshals are waiting outside with arrest warrants for you and Prosecutor Walsh for civil rights violations, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and judicial misconduct. I suggest you stop." Hargrove's voice came out strangled. Her hands moved to the wheels of her chair, trembling. "Just stop." Then something changed in her face. Pain, shock, something neurological triggered by the extreme psychological trauma. Her legs, motionless for 6 years, medically declared permanently paralyzed, began to twitch. The courtroom gasped. Hargrove looked down at her own legs as if they belonged to a stranger. Slowly, with visible effort and confusion, her right foot pressed against the wheelchair footrest. Then her left. Muscles that had atrophied were responding, firing, moving. She gripped the armrests and pushed. Judge Grace Hargrove stood. For 6 seconds, she stood in front of her bench, swaying, disbelieving, before her legs buckled and she collapsed back into the wheelchair. But those 6 seconds had been witnessed by 200 people. The courtroom doors opened. Federal marshals entered, arrest warrants in hand. "Grace Hargrove and Stephen Walsh, you are under arrest for conspiracy to violate civil rights under Title 18, Section 241. The miracle and the ruin happened simultaneously. 6 months later, Malik stood in a community center in South Philadelphia, facing 12 children whose parents were fighting wrongful convictions. They ranged from 8 to 15, their eyes carrying the same exhaustion and determination he recognized from his own reflection. "Evidence isn't just what the police collect," he told them. "It's what you see. What you notice. What doesn't make sense when you pay attention." David Brennan was serving 15 years in federal prison, his yacht seized, his house foreclosed, his children transferred to public school. The $71,000 in his accounts had been recovered and returned to the court's emergency fund. Judge Hargrove and Prosecutor Walsh had been disbarred. Their trial for civil rights violations was scheduled for October. Hargrove's psychosomatic recovery had been documented by neurologists, extreme psychological trauma triggering a breakthrough in conversion paralysis. She could walk now, slowly and with difficulty, but she would do it in disgrace rather than authority. Angela Johnson had been promoted to courthouse facilities supervisor, managing the very building where she'd once been invisible. Her daughter, Grace Angela Johnson, named with deliberate irony and surprising forgiveness, was 3 months old, healthy, and surrounded by love. Malik's foundation, the Invisible Witness Project, had attracted national attention and significant funding. Marcus Reed served as lead counsel, mentoring Malik toward a future in law while helping overturn wrongful convictions across the country. "The system is designed to ignore people like us," Malik told the children. "It assumes we don't matter, that we can't fight back, that we don't see what's happening. But that's their weakness. Because we do see. We do matter. And when we bring the truth into the light, even things they said were impossible can happen. He thought of his mother, free and vindicated. Of a judge who stood when truth could no longer be denied. Of justice, imperfect but real. "Don't give up," Malik said. "Ever."